Now, ladies and gentlemen, imagine going to a place. You work so hard for that place. You work so hard with all your blood and with all your sweat until you improve the economy of that place. Then later on, the owners of that place decide to take your freedom away. They decide to curtail your movement. They decide to discriminate you, ladies and gentlemen, and treat you worse than an animal. That is what happened to the Jamaicans of the Costa Rica. Yes, you heard me right. The Jamaicans of the Costa Rica. Out of many, one people. The Jamaicans have lived out to that name for over 1,000 years, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Now, there is this one gentleman who shares the sad reality about these Jamaicans in the Costa Rica. And don't be surprised, even up to date, these Jamaicans in Costa Rica, they still struggle to assimilate within the society, ladies and gentlemen. These Jamaicans in Costa Rica suffered rampant discrimination for over 100 years, ladies and gentlemen. Even after working so hard for the government of the Costa Rica. Anyway, I will not say much. Let me play this clip first of all, and then I am coming back to react after this. Stay tuned.
The contributions of the Jamaican people in Costa Rica get swept in the rug. In 1910, when the Jamaican people completed the railroad, what was next was the banana field. A man by the name of Keith Miner, an American engineer, had been working with the Costa Rican government, American corporations. The Costa Rican government gave Keith Miner a massive amount of land in agreement that they would go ahead and have a completion of the railroad. So the railroad got completed. And guess who was not allowed to go into San Jose? Jamaican people.
He said that the Jamaicans were the only ones who had the technical know-how or who had the knowledge of banana cultivation. They are the only ones who were very good in farming. The only ones, ladies and gentlemen. So, go on.
Black people. And guess where they needed to work or needed the opportunity to work? It was on the banana fields. And guess who brought the skill set with them from Jamaica into Costa Rica when it comes to farming and working with the land? The Jamaican people. So as Keith Miner, as the American corporations, and as the Costa Rican government is all making massive money in this grand plan to go ahead and build this railroad and then have a system to export it, Black people are just getting the shillings, the small end. But they're the ones who are designing, constructing, and allowing it to bloom.
Yes, Costa Rica is a very beautiful country. I don't object to that. But they also have a very dark history of mistreating Jamaican people, ladies and gentlemen, in the early century. Imagine working in a railway. Imagine working so hard in a banana plantation. Then later on, you're getting disposed of like you're nobody, like you're nothing. Then additionally, they institutionalized a law, in 1930s that will curtail your movement. You cannot move any other place outside Limon, ladies and gentlemen. But either way, maybe things have changed so far. Maybe the Afro Jamaicans who are living in which countries that who are living in Costa Rica, maybe the Afro Costa Ricans right now, maybe they have been fully incorporated into the systems. Maybe they are now, working in bigger institutions, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, maybe things have changed, but one thing that, we can always accept is that, Jamaicans are, productive people. They are really, really, really productive, ladies and gentlemen. Even though sometimes the world has not been fair to them. Look at the Panama Canal, they help in the construction of the Panama Canal. A lot of them died, but they were never compensated. Look at in the UK during Windrush, they came there to reconstruct the UK and help build it up, because a lot of it was brought on a stand down because of World War II, and it's the same thing even in 1920s when some of them went to migrate to Harlem in New York, ladies and gentlemen. It's the same. So these guys have always been involved with building, construction, reconstruction, working factories, ladies and gentlemen. But either way, things have changed so far. And as we speak right now, that's why we are celebrating the Jamaican people, Yes, of course. Later on in life, the Afro-Costa Ricans, they were incorporated into the society. They were accepted back, ladies and gentlemen, after a very furious fight by the Jamaicans. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you that Jamaicans know their respect. They know where, they know their positions. You do not, these are not people that you dictate. These are not people that you just discriminate, you know. These are fighters. These are, you know, they are, yes, Jamaicans are fighters. You know, they have a good history when it comes to resistance. Look at what happened, you know, during Haitian Revolution. A lot of Jamaicans were recruited during the Haitian Revolution, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah? So when you see the Afro-Costa Ricans, who majority are predominantly from Jamaica, you know, they are getting respect there. It's because of they had to fight for it, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, these guys, you know, how they carry themselves, ladies and gentlemen. These are not people that we just discriminate like that. Yeah, and even right now as I speak, the sportsmen and women in Costa Rica, majority of them, when you look at it from closely enough, they have they have Jamaican descent, they have Jamaican roots. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, and sometimes I feel even maybe in the Olympics, it's like Jamaicans are competing among themselves, because even when you look at other countries like Britain, some of these black sprinters, you know, when you look at it from closely enough, you know, when you look at it closely enough, they also have, you know, some Jamaican roots with them. It's like Jamaicans are competing among Jamaicans, ladies and gentlemen. But either way, like the way I've said, Jamaicans are the black missionaries in today's world. Where they go, they influence that place. They influence, you know, they put on their culture into that place, ladies and gentlemen. Because when you go to Limon, yeah, Costa Rica is a Spanish speaking country, but Limon, they are speaking English. They are also speaking Spanish. There are also churches there like you know, Baptist, like all this SDA, you know, and all that. It's Jamaicans who came to influence that, ladies and gentlemen. Even the food, the festival, you know, calypso, you know, the music genre of Jamaicans like reggae, dancehall, calypso, all this is bound to Jamaicans' influence, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Jamaicans are our black missionaries. Look at all these areas that Jamaicans have been migrating to. They were going to reconstruct, construct, or even build. And all these places that they have migrated to, they have improved. Consequently, they have improved the economy of that place because of their hard work, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I know there are also some people who are also involved, but Jamaicans also really played a big part. Okay, look at the Panama Canal, for instance, the most famous one. Between in the years 1800, when the French government took over the Panama Canal, they hired a lot of Jamaicans. Then later on, the US government took over between 1904 and 1914. Again, the same US government preferred to hire a lot of Jamaicans. Over 100,000 Jamaicans came to work in the Panama Canal, ladies and gentlemen. Consequently, the Jamaican people improved the economy of the Panama. Now, these same Jamaicans, again, in 1948, between the years 1948 and 1970, a large proportion of them again moved from Jamaica to UK to help in the construction or reconstruct, actually to reconstruct UK, after a large part of it was left in shambles due to World War II. Okay, consequently, again, a large proportion of Jamaicans helped out to improve the economy of UK. These same Jamaicans now migrated from Jamaica to Costa Rica, and they went and settled in a small town that is called Limon to help out in the construction of the railway line, ladies and gentlemen, actually to complete in the construction of the railway line, because the Costa Rica government had heard, you know, how Jamaicans are very famous when it comes to the construction, so they prefer to hire them a lot. Okay, these same Jamaicans worked in the railway line, others worked in the banana in the fields to help out in the banana plantation, and also others worked at the fruit company. Consequently, these same Jamaicans improved the economy of the Costa Rica, ladies and gentlemen. Now, after the economy of the Costa Rica was greatly improved, and the construction of the railway line was also so much, you know, well done, these same people instituted a law or constitutionalist a law, that will curtail Jamaicans from moving out of Limon. Remember, a large proportion of Jamaicans, actually Jamaicans settled in that small town called Limon. Okay, it's a small Jamaican town, let me call that, in Costa Rica. Okay, so they constitutionalized a law that will force these Jamaicans to stay in Costa Rica. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, you have worked so hard for this for a country with all your blood and with all your sweat, until the economy of that country has improved. Now, after the economy has improved, and now these people, these cartels in the government, now they are reaping profit out of your blood and sweat. Now they want to take your freedom away. These people discriminated Jamaicans in Costa Rica. They treated them like animals, ladies and gentlemen. They curtailed their movement. Imagine taking freedom of movement from someone. There's nothing important in this world than freedom, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the kind of suffering that the Jamaicans in Costa Rica were going through, just like the way the gentleman has explained, ladies and gentlemen. Huh? Yeah? The Jamaicans in Costa Rica, the forgotten Jamaicans in Costa Rica, out of many, one people. Out of many, one people. Now, Jamaicans have a history of resistance. Okay? Yes, Jamaicans have a history of resistance. They have a history of fighting for freedom. Because in 1949, the Costa Rica government had to abolish that law because of, they faced huge resistance from the Jamaican people. They had to abolish it, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, fortunately enough, they were allowed, the Jamaicans in Costa Rica, they were allowed to assimilate with other people. They were allowed to move around freely with other people. But even so, they still suffered some discrimination. They still suffered some, separation. Their rights, some of their rights were also denied. They still had to fight for their acceptance into Costa Rica, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't know how the situation is up to date. Anyone who has information about the Costa Rica people, the Jamaicans of the Costa Rica, please share out with me here in the comment section. How is the situation of them right now? Has the situation improved? Were these Jamaicans finally accepted in the Costa Rica, or they are still facing some, some discrimination? Because things like this go a long way, ladies and gentlemen. Things like this, they go a long way. You see how Jamaicans have been, building countries from right to left. Okay, you see how Jamaicans are so industrial. Now, under cultural and collective identity in Costa Rica, there is what we call the Carnival de Limon. The Carnival de Limon was formed in 1949, and this carnival in Costa Rica is so similar to Jamaican carnival. How they dance, how they dress up, how the kind of food that they eat is very, very similar. Even their style of dress, their style of dressing is way, way similar to the Jamaicans, ladies and gentlemen. And this carnival was heavily influenced by the Jamaican people, and even the Creole that is spoken in Costa Rica by the Afro-Caribbeans or the Jamaicans in Costa Rica was coiled from the Creole in Jamaica. It was coiled from the Jamaican patois. The food is so similar: rice and peas, jack chicken, patty or Jamaican beef, or beef patty or Jamaican beef patty. It's so similar food, ladies and gentlemen. One day, if you have time, you can visit Costa Rica. I myself, I will also want to visit, Limon in Costa Rica, and maybe meet some of these Jamaican people. Ladies and gentlemen, you see how the world is so interesting. Out of many, one people. Jamaicans in Costa Rica. Yes, there are Jamaicans in Costa Rica. I'm sure a lot of people do not know that indeed there is Jamaicans in Costa Rica.